Well, hello, everyone. We're live. We're live on YouTube and Facebook, but I need to introduce myself. So, hello, everyone. My name is Sandra, and I am the host of the I Shall Bloom Show. Yes, a show where we interview stellar individuals whose work and legacy has profoundly uplifted the communities for the better. Today, I have Phoenix here. We did discuss that we were going to be having the Wounded Rose series. This is a series of 7 stories only. That's what God said, 7 stories of betrayal, abuse. But we're going to release it and also help someone that may need help. So come on and listen. Again, my name is Sandra Williams and I am the host. So today we have Phoenix Emmanuel. Woo woo! Welcome. Okay. So, yeah, we have the tissue. Okay, we
We
got
got the tissue ready.
yes, we got the
Yes, this
tissue.
has potential to be an eye jerker.
Yes.
Tear
So
jerker, yeah.
we're gonna just give you a taste of it on Facebook, and then you're gonna have to come back for the second part.
Yeah.
So we already have whoever's on. Hi, you guys.
Hey, y'all.
If you have any questions, we'll probably answer them later because this series is going to be really compelling, and we pray that we help someone. And my phone number, we'll just put our phone numbers out there if someone wants to come on the show and also be a guest and talk about something that they want to release and get help with. So without further ado, I have Miss Phoenix here. Um, how are you?
I'm great. I'm great.
Okay.
It took a lot to get here today.
Yes.
I struggle with a lot of things, so I haven't been feeling well, but I'm here and I'm happy to be here. For
Yes.
those who would like to follow my conscious content,
Yeah.
I'm on Facebook as Phoenix Emmanuel or Visionary Phoenix Emmanuel. And I'm also on Instagram, Phoenix underscore Emmanuel.
Wow. So, okay, so we were going to talk about, well, we're not going to talk about anything. You're going to talk about the secret diagnosis.
Okay.
Um, Mental illness in the African American communities. We have a room in the back, and we may have a cousin or uncle or big mama back there that we never go in that room. We maybe put a plate back there,
Hmm.
but we know that that person is our secret.
Of
You
course.
know, crazy. We may say, "Oh, that's she crazy,"
Uh,
but it's our secret.
of course.
So we want to open up that. We want to chunk down that. We want to break that down. That demon that keeps us in secrecy and
Yeah,
bondage.
that's right.
Because just like if I had a heart problem,
Hmm.
I go to a cardiologist.
Hmm.
Um, if I had any type of blood problems, any whatever medical problems,
Hmm.
there's help for it.
Hmm.
There's help for mental. Your heart, your head hurts. Your brain,
Hmm.
there's not something is not connecting.
Hmm.
Just like when you have high blood pressure, the
Hmm.
blood pressure is they're not connecting.
Of course.
So it raises the heart rate. The heart beats faster and it raises the heart rate. So there's a disconnect there.
Hmm.
Same with the brain cells.
Hmm.
There's a disconnect there. So I'm
Absolutely.
done talking.
Absolutely. So, first off, I'm not a licensed clinician. A lot of the things that I'll be sharing are just from my personal perspective, and um, I've worked in the schools. I've worked in the daycares. I worked at a psychiatric hospital for children. I've done a lot of volunteering, mentoring, and things like that. So I've been able to communicate with a diverse population of people,
Yes.
and that's where I get a lot of my information from, aside from my own personal journey. So my goal here today is to share my own personal testimony in hopes that it'll help liberate someone who's going through life. We all have our own story,
Yeah.
humble beginnings, but I want somebody to understand that what you go through can be the foundation for making you a wonderful person. You can still tap into your divine purpose if you so choose. And so I want to share my testimony to inspire someone today. Mhm. Okay. Do you have any questions for me?
Not yet,
Not
but
yet.
I
Okay.
know that we God gave us this
Hmm.
a wounded rose right on your when you were talking,
Hmm.
and so
Absolutely.
I have chills. So I don't. Huh.
Okay. Okay. So I'll just run with it then. Okay. Well, I am
I'll let you.
from San Antonio, Texas. So is most of my family. I think we have some family in Seguin and Mississippi, and we don't have a lot of background as to what our history is. My particular story started obviously with my ancestors. My mom, she's from San Antonio, and what she told me was that she grew up in an abusive household. I wasn't there, so at face value, and from what I've seen, um, there's no reason to doubt that. Um, and so she was forced, according to my mother, to leave home as a teenager. She was a young teen. She had been sheltered. She hadn't been able to have any friends. She saw a lot of physical and verbal and mental, as well as financial abuse in her home life. As a teenager, my mom left home, and she was clueless as to how to live life or what to expect from life, as most young people are, especially if they've not been given the tools um, to become the best version of themselves that they can. So my mother had was hanging out with some friends. From what she told me, she'd never really drank or anything, and so they had been partying. And she said that she laid down. She was at a party by some older guy was having a party, and so they encouraged her to go to the back room and lay down because I guess I don't know if she was intoxicated or what the situation was, but she told me that one of the gentlemen, one of the older men, came in the room and forced himself on her. And I am a product of that situation. So that's how my journey began.
That's how your journey
Hmm.
begins. Okay, Phoenix
Hmm.
Emmanuel.
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
so um, forwarding to the time when you're 8, or what? I know you said that you remember when you were a certain, even when you were 8 or something like that, when
Yeah,
life was going on right
of
in front of you.
course. Of course.
So let's.
Yeah. So um, things in my life that I can remember really, really start taking a turn when I was in elementary school. Okay. So that was after my mom had married to my brother's dad. And it was an abusive relationship. Like I saw what was happening, I saw him beating her. One of the situations that he beat her so badly while she was pregnant with my brother that she was laying unconscious, pregnant on the floor, and there was broken things, broken glass, blood all over the place. And I was about 5, maybe.
Yeah, we
I
remember.
remember seeing that them fighting,
Hmm.
and a lot of it was because of, I remember, for things like money or him not coming home at night, and
Yeah, this is
he was involved in drugs and things like that. And so seeing my mom at 5 years old laying on the floor unconscious, it was, I'll never forget that.
right. It's an imprint. It made a picture.
It did. It definitely
Memory.
did.
Hmm.
And so after they weren't together any longer, they separated. He had all the furniture taken away. Then our apartment got robbed, right? And there's a reason that I'm saying this.
Yes.
So our apartment got robbed, and then shortly after that, we were in a fire, and we lost everything.
Mm.
And so as an adult, I can kind of pinpoint the things that happened in my mom's life that added on to the trauma that she already had growing up,
Yes.
you know. So
Okay.
so things like depression and things like that, they already were precursors to our family history,
Yes.
but it kind of pushed my mom over the edge, like, how she had to suffer in silence.
Yes.
Of course, and not really be able to talk about the things that she was going through or actually get the help or the therapy that she really needed during that time because she had so many traumatic events. And I don't even know all the things that happened to her.
Right.
I know what happens to teenage girls when they're on the streets because some of that happened to me
Yeah.
in my lifetime, you know.
Mhm.
So, we ended up having to move, and then we moved to a side of town that we were the only Black people. It was a decent neighborhood,
Mhm.
but then we faced a lot of racism,
Okay.
and so now mom has more stresses. She has
Mhm.
more stressors. She doesn't have an income. She has these mental health issues, which later she ended up becoming diagnosed as it's bipolar now. That's what
Uh-huh.
they call it. So
Yeah.
I don't know what all her diagnoses are, but she also had a lot of physical ailments too. She was diabetic and all
Mhm.
these sorts of things. And so as a mother, trying to do the best that she could
Yeah.
with small children, no formal education. Um, People don't mean to hurt the people that are closest to them,
Yeah. We know. We know.
but that's likely what happens,
Yeah,
right?
and you're gonna have. Yeah, I
Hmm.
know that we discussed that. You
Hmm.
said that. Of course, we don't want to do anything to discredit your mom's
Hmm.
name,
Oh, absolutely not.
but you got to tell this, the
Hmm.
story because
Yes.
of the way she had to deal with.
Hmm.
She dealt with her anger on you
Of
and your
course.
kid and the kids,
Of course,
and so we
absolutely.
got to talk about that because
Hmm.
somebody might be doing that now,
Hmm. Hmm.
and so you have to break that
Hmm.
because you don't. She was angry. She
Hmm.
was angry with a lot of probably the things that happened to her,
Of
and
course.
so she was young, so her she followed what happened to her.
Exactly.
We repeat those things unless we break it. It's a generational curse.
Hmm.
So you were talking about some of the issues, some of the beatings
Hmm.
that you received, and the
Hmm.
mental
Of
abuse.
course. Of course.
And so we got to talk about
Hmm.
that. I know
So,
you brought
yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So the generational patterns, so we like to in the Black community, or I don't know how many communities actually use this, but especially in my community,
it.
we like to use a lot of religious words like generational curses, which
Mhm.
I'm not discounting that, but what I am saying is that a lot of these behaviors are generationally learned behaviors because you learn how to talk to your kids, you learn how to communicate with them, you
Mhm.
learn how to discipline them. And I think a lot of that, those disciplinary measures stem from how we were beaten during
Mhm.
slavery.
Yes. Oh
Like
yeah.
we talk to each other
Mhm.
like slave masters talk to their slaves. We
Mhm.
have in the past disciplined our children the way that we were taught during slavery to do so.
Yes.
And so that's what ended up happening. There was a lot of things that I could never express how I felt. As a small child,
Mhm.
one of the men in my family uh, was doing some things to me physically. And I tried to tell my mom about it. And this is something, well, I did tell my mom about it. And so this is another thing. I've talked to a lot of young people, whether it was a man or a woman, who
Mhm.
said that they told their family
Right.
that an adult did something bad to them, and the adult either called them a liar
Right.
or they dismissed it altogether, you
Right.
know. And so these kinds of things, how we um, communicate with our children, how we listen to our children, how we speak to our children, are the foundational principles, or they're the catalyst for what we're seeing today in today's community, in today's society. We
Yes.
have a lot of
Right.
angry,
Mhm.
hurting adults and children who feel like their voice doesn't matter and that they can't be heard, and that's not true.
Right. Right. I know you talked about you and your baby brother,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
your mom had beat you till you were bloody,
Hmm.
and
Yeah, she did.
and
Mhm.
you and your brother
Yeah,
was there.
yeah,
So
yeah. So there was a lot of, we don't have to beat our children for everything.
right.
And as an adult, when I saw when my daughter was really small that my reactions were mimicking what I had been taught and what had happened to me,
Yes.
I consciously made the decision not to do that to my child.
Right.
I did it with intention. I took parenting classes. No one
Mm-hmm.
made me do that, and so on and so forth. And so there was a time, and so without demonizing my mother, because I do understand
Yes.
her past history and her trauma. And
Mm-hmm.
it's not necessarily like this isn't a boohoo, feel sorry for me. And I don't want people to feel like they their story is just crying and complaining, because your story, what you go through, can elevate you and tap you into your divine purpose.
Yeah.
That divine purpose
That's good.
often are the things that once you heal, you can start helping other people get to their personal healing. So, yes, my mother, because she didn't know how to discipline us, and she was disciplining us strictly from her own trauma and lack of resources. She disciplined us with a heavy hand.
Yeah.
And so disciplining your children, some people believe in spanking, some people don't. A lot of times you can just speak to your children. You don't have to belittle them. You don't have to cuss them out. And trust me, I have an adult child, so I get it. I know what teenagers can put us through, right? But we don't have to verbally or mentally abuse our children. But in my story, there was a time where right before we had the fire, that my mom wanted she wanted me to wash dishes. And so at this time, I'm like 8 years old. She wanted me to do the dishes. And she had been stressed out, and it was weeks that she hadn't done it, because now as an adult, I know that all the stuff that she had gone through within the past couple of years of the divorce, and she had my brother by now, all these things, they're weighing on her. So a lot of times when you're depressed, you don't feel like cleaning up.
No, yeah.
I suffer from depression a lot now.
Well, it takes a strength. Huh?
It takes a strength. And so she was depending on an 8-year-old to go in there and clean up. And we lived in the hood, right? So she had seen a rat. And I'm a kid. I'm like, I don't want to see the rat. And it's dishes piled up everywhere.
Right.
And I didn't clean the dishes like she wanted me to in a timely fashion. So she told me to strip, take my clothes off. She was going to spank me. And not only the dishes had not been done, but the laundry either. So she had me take my clothes off. And she was about to beat me. She hit me like 1 or 2 times. And I'm a kid. You know how little kids are. Yeah. I took off running and dived in the pile of laundry for safety. And she grabbed me by my foot and pulled me up out that laundry, and I accidentally kicked her in the nose. Now, black people, if you accidentally kick your mom in the nose, you got one coming.
No, it's extra.
It's extra. It was extra, but in that situation, it was extra.
Yeah.
So, I ended up getting tied to a bunk bed with just my underwear on and beat till I was bloody.
Yeah.
That's not discipline. That is child abuse. That's child abuse. I don't feel like my mother intentionally wanted to commit child abuse. I feel like all the stress and all the pain that she was going through, I was an easy target at that point, And so my brother came in, and he was little. He was about 3 years old, and he could barely talk. He came in there and he said, "Stop hitting my tutor."
Yeah.
And she said, "Oh, you want to come save her?
Yeah.
I'm gonna beat you too." I don't remember if she hit him at that time, but she told him that if he didn't have me untied by the time she came back, that she was gonna beat me again.
Yeah.
And so, that kind of thing, it's traumatic. I've never forgotten that.
Yeah.
And a lot of us have
you
been.
Go back and see yourself in your head.
Oh, heck yeah. Yes. Scared. I was extremely afraid. I was afraid to talk. I was afraid to communicate. I was afraid to, to do anything that was going to upset mom. Yeah. And so children don't get to talk about what they're going through. And so our communities, they see children acting out by the time they're teenagers. And instead of pulling those children aside and saying, "Are you okay? What's going on with you?" They call them names.
Yeah.
Especially little girls or little boys who've been touched.
Yes. That's a secret too.
It is a secret. It is a secret. And I've seen so many times in my life where the church will say, "Oh, that little girl's fast."
Yeah.
But if you know that a child is acting out in a sexual way,
yes,
then you should also know that that child is probably being touched or molested.
Yeah, and abused.
We have to stop re-abusing the victims
Mhm.
and be proactive about saving our children.
Okay.
Mhm.
Well, I want to say this. I thank you guys. Oh, yours went off. Thank you guys for tuning in. This story is going to be divided. So I'm going to log off on the Facebook. It'll be on YouTube, but Facebook, we're going to log off. So I see you guys. Look forward to part two. And thank you for tuning in. It's on that corner. Uh huh. Uh-huh. Turn that one on. You can turn it around. Bye now. For now. And you're able to get part two um, in a week or so. Just turn it around towards you. Lift it up.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
turn around and turn around.
Towards you. Turn it towards you.
So
Uh-huh.
you could, yeah.
Just end it. Uh oh. You see it? Okay. End it.
Did you stop it? It's
Uh-uh.
oh, I don't think. Do you know how to stop the live?
Oh. Uh-huh. It's still
It's
on.
still going.
That's okay. There we go. Okay.
Okay, so
Okay. So that was part one.
hmm so we're gonna continue, or are we still on?
Yeah, we're still on. So
Okay.
we're back. I just wanted to introduce Phoenix and her story to the Facebook friends, but this is going to be several parts to this. And so YouTube, of course, I can edit it, but the Facebook would be live and it'll be back on in parts.
hmm
So continuing on.
Okay. All right.
I know you had talked about your baby brother. You were telling the story, and if he didn't come and untie you from a bed
Uh-huh.
as a how old? 5 year
At
old,
that time, he was about 3.
about 3 years
Yeah.
old. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, oh man, that was a
Yeah.
lot for
It
a baby.
was. I can't even imagine. I mean, because we only think about what we're going through in the moment,
Yeah.
but I can't even imagine what kind of foundation that set for him for anxiety
Yes.
and things like that.
Yeah.
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 The trauma.
I wanted to say too that I met a couple of men that didn't like women.
hmm
But then as you learn, you get to know them.
You
It,
learn their
it,
story.
you learn this that their mom, they
hmm
didn't like their mother,
hmm
and their mother put them through,
A lot of stuff.
some
Yeah.
stuff because she was suffering and
hmm
didn't get help,
hmm
and so took it out on the son that looked
hmm
like the
The
man
father. Yeah.
that looked like the father,
Of course.
and so
Yeah.
it's a big, when you encounter that,
hmm
it's you have to go all the way back to the
You do.
roots, huh?
You do. Absolutely.
So, as you were growing up, um, the same thing, well, you had a child, you had,
hmm
and so, um, what's that look like as you came out of the abuse?
hmm
Well, let's talk about that
Okay.
too.
Okay.
When did you decide?
To leave.
Because
Uh,
you were young,
I
right then.
was.
You
I
were,
was.
you were taking over. You
hmm
were trying to clean the house and
hmm
trying to take over your mom to make her like you.
Uh-huh.
Did you ever feel like you wanted to? I want to do good for my mom, so she won't do this.
I was just trying to spare myself. That's all. Like making her like me, I'm not sure I cared about that.
Yeah.
I just did not want to get beaten on, you know.
Yes.
Um, and then, like, I do want to touch a little bit about what you said about the young men being targeted by the moms who
Mm-hmm.
raise these young boys. That's true. It's true. And so I never want to discount what happens to the young men because I have a lot of conversations with men
Mm-hmm.
who do not like women. They blame women for the state of the Black community and things like that. And so for each one of them, I tell them, yes, it's okay to articulate your truth.
Right.
But for me and for a lot of us, the trauma started with the men, my grandfather, and
Mm-hmm.
and the other men in the community, the men that molested me, the men that took
Right.
advantage of me. And so for my mother, you know, if she gave my brother a strong arm, I could see that that would probably be why, that she didn't want him to grow up to be like the men who had caused her harm or the men who caused me harm.
Right.
And so that's not okay. That's not okay. We should not be victimizing our children because ultimately we create more victimizers.
Yeah, we do. And well, the secret too. It's
This
just a secret.
exactly.
So we endure abusive relationships. We stay
hmm
with the man because, we don't talk about that. What happens in this house
hmm
stays in this house, but we are we're actually shutting that down. We're not
Exactly.
doing that. We're dismantling that bondage.
Mm-hmm.
So
Changing
that's
the narrative. We have
yes,
to.
we have to. And so that's what this Wounded Rose is about. Okay, I was
Exactly.
wounded. I'm still a rose. I'm,
Exactly.
but I have some thorns,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still here
Exactly.
to help someone else.
Exactly.
So that's why I love your story. We have more stories,
Exactly.
but I love what you're, okay. So when I'm going back,
Mm-hmm.
um, when it was that time,
Mm-hmm.
you endured this,
Mm-hmm.
but when was the day you said, I'm moving out?
Okay, so the first time I left home, I was 14. I had gotten beaten really badly. And at let's back up. So at 8 years old, at whatever age a elementary age child is, they don't warrant beatings to their bloody, calling our children out of our name. And so I grew up being beat for every little thing,
Yes.
breaking a leaf off the plant, not cleaning up in a timely fashion. Or it wasn't even because I was failing in school, which my home life impacted my schooling a lot.
Yes.
I couldn't study. At home was not a place where I could study and learn, And
Yes.
so there was an incident where I was about 14 years old, and my mother, I can't remember exactly what the incident was. I remember, she felt like I didn't like her parenting or whatever. And I remember her asking me, well, you don't like it here, then you can go live with your aunt, pack your stuff. And I was like, okay, right. I didn't say that, but I was okay. She gave me some trash bags and she said, let me know when you're ready. So I packed up my stuff. I'm like, oh, finally,
Yeah, I'm ready to
finally,
go.
right?
Yeah.
And so I said, okay, I'm ready. And when I said that, she got up and punched me in the face. And then she just kept hitting me. And so she told me to say when I was ready. I didn't verbalize that I was tired of being beat on, but I was tired of being beat on.
Yes.
And so I think she took it as an attack on her as a parent. Like maybe she was trying to do the best she could and
Yeah.
she felt like I couldn't see that. But anyway,
She's like, no, you didn't.
exactly. She was the one that gave me the bag.
Yeah, and
So
you
I was
didn't
like,
know.
oh God, please, you're finally answering my prayers. Because
Yes.
there was a lot of praying, crying, and asking God, why did my mom hate me? Why didn't anybody come to help us? And some people did know that we were being abused. And so a lot of families just choose to stay out of it as
Yeah.
opposed to doing something about it.
Mhm.
And
And
no,
that's not the right way.
that's not the right
Speak out.
way.
Speak out because kids are dying
Exactly.
in the house too. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Kids are dying.
Suffering.
Mhm.
Exactly.
And then children are suffering because they know
Mhm.
what happened in the house too.
Exactly.
And so it impacts our communities.
Exactly.
Our communities of broken, like broken communities.
Mm-hmm. It does.
Where they all go and everybody turns their head.
Exactly. They turn their heads. And
Yeah.
so that beating at 14 years old, she didn't just punch me in the face. She grabbed me by the hair. She dragged me down the hallway.
Mm-hmm.
She was kicking me in the face and all sorts of things. And I couldn't defend myself. Okay. And so um, when she finally stopped, I had blood coming out of my tear ducts. I had blood coming out of my tear ducts, and I had scrapes and scars all over me, and I just I didn't know what to do. And so the next day, she wanted me to go do something, and I had to go catch the bus with my little brother. And
Wow.
I oh yeah, I was doing all kinds of stuff, like basically I was the second parent of the household basically.
Mm-hmm.
And so I left home. Like I didn't come back home. I just stayed on the bus. I didn't know where I was going.
Mm-hmm.
I just did not want to go through that anymore. And
How did you feel with your? Because I know you're like, I don't want to leave my baby brother.
no, I didn't want to leave him, but I knew that I wasn't going to be able to support him or whatever. I really didn't have a plan. I just was like, I didn't want to go back to that.
Right.
So we were on the bus. I went and ran the errand, took the bus till we got home, made sure he got off the bus and that he was, because the bus would let us off right in front of our apartments. So let him go walking home and watched him until he got close to our apartment, and then the bus pulled off. And I was in the clear. I was just like, okay, hopefully she doesn't find me. And so I just started changing buses and stuff like that. And that was difficult. That was being a 14-year-old runaway.
Right. It's hard.
Was
And it's fun. The bus driver didn't say, Where's your you know, they're so focused
Yeah,
on,
yeah, they don't know what's going on.
hmm
Yeah,
wow.
and that was difficult. Being
Mhm.
14 and on the streets, grown men aren't kind to little girls.
Yeah, that's this
They
whole trafficking thing.
That's
This
the
whole
whole
world.
trafficking thing.
hmm
So I didn't get trafficked, but I did get taken advantage of.
hmm
And I had called a friend and ended up staying with that friend. Uh,
hmm
the mother let me stay there,
Right.
and while I was there, yeah, one of the adults in the house,
Yeah.
one of the males
hmm
in that situation too,
hmm
told me that if I had to stay there, then
You got to do
that I
this.
was going to have to do something. And I had no idea. I was like,
Hmm. Is this how the world
is
is?
this how the world
When you're
is?
young.
Because that was the second time that happened to me while I was out there.
Mm.
And I was out there for 2 weeks. And so the narrative that was being placed is that, oh, she's this and she's fast and she just want to leave home and this and
hmm
that, without knowing anything that was going on with
Right.
me. And I could not tell anybody because, again, the secret, you don't talk about what's happening at home.
The secret. Yeah.
Yeah.
What goes on here stays on,
Hmm.
stays in here. You don't talk about it. But
Exactly.
we are changing that narrative.
Hmm.
So
We're changing that
if there's
narrative.
anyone out there, that's going through that, you can reach out to us and we're going to give out our information
Hmm.
too. And we have a counselor here at the Barbara Jordan.
Okay.
So,
Exactly. Yeah, there
so
is help.
mhm,
You just have to identify the people that you can talk to, that
yes,
you can share your truth with. And also for the parents, I don't know a lot of the local numbers because I don't live in San Antonio right now,
yes,
but I do know that 211 has a
211.
lot of resources. So you can call 211 and it's a national United Way number and they can guide you to community resources, even for a parent.
Yes.
If you're a parent and you're just struggling, I heard last year of a young lady who committed suicide because she just was stressed out taking care of her children by herself. There are resources. There's people to talk to. You don't have to feel like you're raising these babies alone
Yes.
because the babies end up being a product of their environment. So if they
Yeah.
see mommy or daddy, because there's a lot of single fathers these days too,
Yeah.
if they see you stressed out all the
And
time,
homeless. With the babies.
exactly,
See the fathers.
exactly. If they see you stressed out, if you're reactionary towards them, if they're, parenting is a foundational principle.
Yes.
We are where we're the soil for our children.
Yes.
So, you know what I mean? We have to make sure that that soil
Mhm.
is
Good
is
ground.
healthy enough that it's good
Mhm.
ground for them to grow into healthy adults.
Yes.
Hmm.
So when you finally left, because you said you left
Hmm.
and you got pregnant.
No, I didn't get pregnant right away.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get pregnant until I was 20, going on 21.
Oh,
So at 14, I had to go back home
okay.
because I was a runaway and I was a minor. And
Yes.
so the school, I went up to the school. I didn't go straight home. I went to school, and
Mm-hmm.
the counselors saw the bruises and stuff on my face, and they called Child Protective Services.
Yeah.
Well, Child Protective Services came to the house, and I got beat again for
Yeah,
that.
I know you were scared. I know
I
you
got beat
were.
again, and I was just counting the days. I was like, this cannot be my life. God, you called me to do a thing, and I know you see this woman doing this to us, because at that point, now
Mm-hmm.
there's three of us. My mom had another child.
Oh, okay.
So I'm just like, wait, I know you see this.
Yeah.
I know you see
All right,
this.
where
I know
is it?
you seen this woman pull a gun on me
Wow.
at
Yeah.
12 years old. I know you saw that, God. Like, what do you,
What is this?
So
What did I do to deserve
exactly,
this?
not
Yeah.
not that bad. There's
Yes.
nothing a child can do
You can pull a gun
that that warrants that.
on. Mm-hmm.
So, and by the way, I got the gun pulled on me because she was gonna beat me with the extension cord again, and I took off running out the front door. So
Right.
she grabbed my two siblings and found me, and I didn't have a plan. I was standing by the mailboxes crying, praying to God, and
Yes.
she
Oh.
came with that gun and she said, "If you run, I'm gonna shoot you."
Um,
So it wasn't because I was acting a fool and running amok that I got a gun pulled on me. I was a child.
yeah.
And that was before I actually decided to run away from home. 'Cause I
Right.
was like, well,
Right.
I'm laughing, but it ain't funny. It's
Right.
not funny because I have a lot of things that I deal with now, the depression and PTSD, and life did the same thing to me too. So, but I'm managing it. That's what made me go into holistic health. So I finally left home when I was 16, going on 17 years old, and I was
What date? Do
working.
you remember that day? Or
Heck
what you
no,
said?
no, I don't
No?
remember. I just remember that I was pretending like I was taking out the trash and took some of my clothes. And at that time, I had met my daughter's dad
Yeah.
at my job, right? And
Yeah.
so I called him. I knew that he had a car. One of his friends had a car. And I was like, I'm leaving. Please come get me. Because he knew what was going on at home. And I don't know if he came in. I don't remember
Yeah.
how we ended up linking up, but I kept my little job for a little while, and he and I were basically homeless. He didn't have to be homeless. His family lives in San Antonio, but I didn't have anyone at that time to mentor me or to pull me in or anything. So I was homeless, sleeping in the back of people's cars and stuff like that. And then I got pregnant with my daughter at the age of 20, and I had her when I was going on 21.
Yeah.
hmm
Okay.
Yeah.
So, what was your thought process when you had the baby?
When I found out I was pregnant,
Mhm.
I was just like, oh my God, I thought we wanted a family. And then
Mhm.
when I actually found out I was pregnant, I realized that, he was a little older than me.
Mhm.
So I thought that he was going to take care of us. And then he was just as
Mhm.
non-intelligent about life as I was,
Yeah.
And
Older.
so, yeah, I was like so I was 20, he was about 23.
Yeah.
And so he also came from a broken family and they had some mental health issues. I didn't know. I was a
Right.
kid, you know what I mean?
Yes.
So yeah, I had her, and then while I was pregnant with her, we lived in a homeless shelter. Me, him, and the baby. I was just done with life. I was like, I'm pregnant and we in a shelter, right?
Yeah.
So
Like you picked him. You picked another. Oh yeah.
oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. We'll talk about dating choices later. How
Right. Yeah.
trauma affects your dating choices.
Yes. That's
So
part. That's
it
part of it too. We got to talk about that whole thing in your Wounded Rose series.
exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. So we ended up getting an efficiency apartment, and I was just done with him, right? Because I felt like, he could have done better and things like that, not knowing that he was suffering from mental health issues.
Yes.
So that was, and at that time, obviously, I was too,
Yes.
you
Oh,
know.
for sure. Yeah. And
hmm
not knowing, just trying to process and trying to make it.
Exactly.
So.
But no, but we don't even think about that. When we're living, we're just living life and not realizing that what happens to us during our childhood, especially, creates trauma. And it can be trauma that you have to live with for the rest of your life.
Right.
I had no idea. At that point, I had not started walking in my calling yet.
Yes.
Okay. So I we separated when she was probably about 18 months old. And that's when I officially became a single parent. I had learned how to hustle on the streets and stuff like that to survive.
Yeah.
And I was just like, okay, I got to take care of this baby. So I had to start cutting off a lot of the friends, or,
So.
fair weather,
Yeah.
hangout
Yeah.
people
Yeah. Just
that
people.
call themselves your friends. But when you're young, they're just as confused as you are.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
yeah, don't listen to your friends. If y'all
Mhm.
watching this, do not listen to especially if you're a young person. Your friends, they don't have it figured out. You know
Either.
what I mean? So,
Mhm.
yeah, that find some good mentors and some people who are actually living a positive life that you
Yeah.
can emulate,
Have
okay?
to.
Because we want to be better versions of ourselves. That's what this is all about.
Yeah.
That's what this conversation is about.
That's it.
Using the pain that you go through to help you learn what you need to work on in your life, right? So
Right.
if you know that you've been abused, if you know that someone in your family suffers from alcoholism and it could affect you or it did affect you, right? Do what you need to do. Going to therapy is not a bad thing. It's necessary to
Yeah.
help you elevate to your divine purpose. And then meditation and prayer and your religious practices,
Yeah.
that all ties in, right? So we
Mhm.
have to look at things from a realistic perspective in order to tap into the inner spiritual perspective
That's good.
and operate in a divine way.
That's good.
Yeah. So yeah, so I realized, we're fast forward a little bit
Yes.
to the age my daughter's like 3 years old. By this time, I have started, let's see, I ended up being in a victim of a crime at gunpoint. And so these people and the choices that I made in my life, right? They all stack on top of each other because when you've been raised in a traumatic environment, right? So this you were mentioning generational curses earlier. So these generational thought patterns, these generational cycles, these these sorts of things, they kept following me because I didn't have a community of people to teach me anything about life.
Right.
And that's what I needed. That's what our young people need. They need proactive people in the community who are functioning and functional to help usher these young people into a positive direction. So,
That's good.
yeah.
And that's so you
Mhm.
got your own place, and how did that all?
So we got our own. Okay, so I got my own place when my daughter was 3. That didn't work out well because I didn't know how to pay bills,
Right.
and I ended up getting on a program. I don't know if I wasn't on housing. It was a community that basically went off of your income.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Program.
Exactly. So I got on a program, and then I ended up going to, after the traumatic situation um, that happened, the victim thing. I After I recovered from that, mostly, but I went to therapy and I finally said, okay, I'm gonna pull myself up. So that recovery process took about 2 years. I didn't even want to leave my house. Like it was very traumatic for me.
Yeah.
I started volunteering at AmeriCorps and at the George Gervin Youth Center. And so that's when I first started becoming a mentor with young people at AmeriCorps.
So that made you were able to pour into them,
Uh-huh.
the ones, and you can kind of see the ones that, oh, she's suffering like I did, or something. Did they see your light, or they see the connection?
You know what?
How's that?
I was still operating from the trauma,
Mhm.
but I was there. Didn't really know why I was there, but God was connecting me with people, with mentors, with older people
Yes.
who were professionals at the George Gervin Center. And one of the people, I don't know, this was like in the 90s. My daughter was born in 1997. So this was probably early 2000 or 1999, somewhere around there. I don't remember, but it's been years ago. But there was a man that worked at the George Gervin Youth Center. Shout out to George Gervin. Thank you for what you do for our
Yes,
community.
shout out, yes.
I met him a couple of times. He's a wonderful individual. Um, Mr. Shannon, he taught the GED. And I would go because I was one of the mentors. They would just give me like assignments to help with the kids,
Yes.
that were there.
Beautiful.
Uh-huh. And so Mr. Shannon taught the GED courses. And sometimes I would be assigned to help him in his class.
Yeah.
And he said, young lady, and I'm in my early 20s at this point. He said, young lady, do you have your GED? Well, I didn't. I had dropped out of school.
Right.
Right. And so I didn't know that I had a learning disability. But Mr. Shannon started teaching me GED stuff. And then when they would take the George Gervin kids to St. Philip's,
Yeah.
right? He told me one day, he said, go on, take your GED. And I ended up, and I think that George Gervin helped pay for it. I don't know who paid for that,
Right.
but I got my GED.
Awesome.
Yes, because of Mr. Shannon. Yeah, Mr. Shannon passed away,
Oh.
but that was my friend. God had assigned people and has, like yourself.
That was your angel. How he puts those people in our way, huh?
Exactly,
Oh.
because you've been called. You know what I mean? We weren't sent here by accident. God called us here. We have a divine purpose,
Yeah.
and when we start tapping into that divine purpose, we end up meeting people like Miss Sandra.
Oh,
Right?
like Miss Phoenix Emmanuel, her daughter and her friend over there, angels.
Yes, that God. Yes, absolutely. So my testimony today is a precursor to the book that I'm about to write.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's a book coming.
There's a book.
There's a book coming.
Yeah.
There's several books.
And
coming.
I can say, hey, I met her first.
Yes,
You know what I mean?
absolutely.
So.
Absolutely. So there's a book coming, and then there's a couple of books. I'm going to show people some of the healing techniques that I've learned. At this point in my life, I'm studying to be a holistic health practitioner. I have a diploma as a master herbalist, and I teach meditation and all that other kinds of stuff. We don't have to stay in bondage,
Right.
and I'm not saying that I have everything figured out, my personal testimony. I still struggle with depression. Sometimes people see me out and about. They have no idea what it took me to get out of the house.
Yes.
This is a struggle for me.
Mhm.
And so, but I'm doing it. We don't have to give up. We don't have to lay down and play dead.
Mm-mm.
As long as you got life in your body, you can keep on pushing,
You can keep
right?
on pushing. And I admire her. She says she's dealing sometimes with depression
Mhm.
still,
Lots of
a lots of depression, but
Yeah.
it's a fight, and she's winning.
Mhm.
It's a fight, and so I look up to her because it just, on my days that I'm, it's just like, oh, look at Phoenix. And other women like you that's been on the show. We all have a connection. God brought us here to the I Shall Bloom show
Mhm.
because we shall bloom.
That's
That's the
right.
word.
That's right.
I shall do it, you shall do it, and then we all do it together. We
Exactly.
bloom and blossom.
Exactly.
So this, the Wounded Rose series again is about healing
Mhm.
and healing, and then also you're being blessed. You're going to be blessed with her book.
Mhm.
I'm going to actually tell my story on the Wounded Rose as well. I didn't want to, but God, but I have to as well. I'm one of the stories, so my story will be on there as well. And I look forward to your books and you coming
Thank
on
you.
here and showcasing your books.
Absolutely.
So
Deal. Sounds like a plan.
yes. So is there anything else that you'd like to speak about?
There are just a couple of things.
Sure.
First off, some of the things that I struggle with: PTSD, depression, anxiety, insomnia. These are all things that can be uh, brought on by trauma, right? And so I know that they were, right?
Yes.
And so when you're depressed and you're going through those things, sometimes you don't take care of your physical health like you should. So right now I have to have an operation. I have fibroid tumors that got out of hand, and so I've been having excessive bleeding, right?
Mm.
And so I've been having to get iron infusion every 3 months for the past year, and one of the depression episodes that I had, I was sick and shut in, not to be funny, but yeah, I didn't
Yeah.
go anywhere for a year and a half because I was suffering from a bout of depression. And during that time period, um, I needed to go see my doctor. Like I literally didn't leave my house to do much of anything for about a year and a half. And I had ran out of one of my medications.
Yeah.
And so my doctor said to me, well, you haven't been here in like 8 months, and so we need to do labs on you. So I went and got the labs done, and then the next day they told me to go to the hospital because I needed to get a blood transfusion.
Wow.
Because I had been bleeding to death, not knowing that I had tumors because they had developed over time and I didn't know that I had them. And so I'm saying I added that to the story because our mental health definitely affects our physical health. Physical health. Let's back up. Our spiritual health
Oh yeah.
affects our mental health
Yes.
that can ultimately affect our physical health. And so we see that with a lot of people who have diabetes because, in not all cases, but in many cases,
Yeah.
I'm not a licensed clinician, but there's validity to what I'm saying.
Yeah.
A lot of us eat our emotions, right?
Anyway.
We try to eat the pain away.
Mhm.
And so it causes us to gain weight, right? And so eating a lot of unhealthy foods are a precursor in our community to diabetes and heart
Those
problems.
comfort foods,
Exactly.
fried fat, chicken nuggets, quick stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but
Yeah.
they're loaded with sodium.
Exactly. And all kinds of artificial stuff. So, taking care of your mental and spiritual health is very vital. And I'm on my journey, so y'all can be on the journey with me.
Yes.
So,
I'm on my journey too. Yes.
so as a single parent, once I became a single parent, once I started doing things to try to better myself for my child,
Yeah.
I made the conscious decision, especially after I started working at the George Gervin Youth Center. I saw these other children who were considered at-risk children like I was.
Yes.
I wasn't much older than them, right? I looked just like them because I looked young for my age and they thought I was the same age. And I'm like, I'm not, you know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
But I could see them because they mirrored myself.
Yeah.
They also came from broken families and broken lives and they were hurting inside. Young people lash out. They act out
Yes.
when they're
Cry.
hurting.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so if you don't listen to them, then they start doing things that can cause themselves pain or somebody else. And so before it gets to that point, we need to start listening to our children way before they start getting in trouble. So I recently saw a study that said you have to start recognizing at-risk behaviors in a young person by the age of 8. By the time they reach the age of 10 and 13, it's almost too late. They've already internalized the things. Now, I'm not saying that young children cannot be rehabilitated,
Right.
because at the very least, they just want you to listen to them and to see them as an individual, as a person. And you know, it causes them to build a bond with you, right?
Beautiful. Trust starts.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's where the
Well,
trust starts.
starts when it comes out of the
Exactly.
womb, but when they're able to realize it and visualize it,
Exactly.
there's somebody I can trust.
Exactly. You
We
have
always remember that person.
Mhm.
I remember my first
Exactly.
person. I mean, I had my mom and dad, of course, but I do remember Miss Rojas, my
Mhm.
teacher. I
Mhm.
still remember her, Miss
Exactly.
Rojas. And I was like, I love her. She is so, I could tell her anything.
Exactly.
You know? So we remember those
Mhm.
people who we first developed that trust relationship with
Exactly.
after our parents.
Yes,
Or
ma'am.
if it's not our parents, someone else. So I appreciate that.
Yes, ma'am. So we have to listen to them,
Yeah.
talk to them, not talk at them.
Yes.
Even if they're telling you as a parent or as a caregiver that you're doing something wrong, listen to them, because they're going to let you know what you two can work on together if you choose to be proactive about change. And so as a parent, I decided that I wanted to be the change. Did I do everything correctly? No, I didn't, but I tried. And as a parent, that's what we have to do. We have to try to be better for our children so we can build better generations.
Yes, because the generation that's out there now is from the mistakes and the brokenness of
Exactly.
that, this generation of the parents.
Hmm.
So that's they speak out,
Hmm.
they act out,
Hmm.
and so that's that generation now that won't take no, won't take. If you're not listening, then we're gonna do something.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? They act out. So,
Exactly.
but it's not too late.
Mm-mm.
Like you said, it's not too late because it's all about looking for love
Hmm.
and validation. You matter.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? So there's nothing when you see that kid puffed up. You matter. You are something. You watch the little kids that come on the talk shows, and they're being awarded for being the best dancer
Of
or
course.
whatever, rapper or whatever, but they're puffed up.
Hmm.
And so that's what we need to do with our kids. We need to have them puffed up.
Exactly.
So when they walk out that house, oh, you're this. No, I'm not. Because my
Exactly.
parents, I am this.
That makes a difference. I've
Because
seen the
my mama and
difference.
daddy told me this, or my auntie told me.
Exactly. I
So,
believe in myself.
I believe. And then
Yeah.
that one that's looking, well, I want to hang around them. because
Exactly.
So it all starts like that. One person can be the change. And that's what that is with this whole thing. One person can be the change. And so remember that. One person, that means you can be the change.
That's right.
And so that's how that is.
Absolutely.
Domino effect, push that domino, boop, 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 boop,
Mhm.
and it keeps going.
That's
So
right.
I thank you. Is
Thank
there
you. Thank
anything?
you.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. So, I guess in closing today, we were not born by accident. We were sent here with a purpose.
Yes.
Our trials and tribulations that we go through can be our biggest testimony that can catapult us into finding what our divine purpose is. Healing is a choice. If you choose to heal, if you choose to do better, you can. So, what God wants us to do in this new generation is to be the change that we want to see in the world. We have young people who are hurting and they're acting out. A lot of us were hurting and we were acting out, but we have the opportunity to change the course of humanity. And we are here for such a time as this
Yes.
on purpose. You can find some of the products that I sell, I do have a small business that I'm growing.
Yes.
It's called Prosperity Fragrances. My website is prosperityfragrance.online. Again, that's prosperityfragrance.online. Um, and we do mentor. That's a part of our vision. We mentor. The name of our mentoring program is Road to Prosperity. We have a peer support group. And if you'd like to follow my conscious content, I'm Phoenix Emmanuel, or Visionary Phoenix Emmanuel, on Facebook, and Phoenix_Emmanuel on Instagram.
Awesome. Well, again, it's always a pleasure and always God felt, and I just love you being here. Always feel blessed. I told you that from our first meeting. And so, of course, I know I'll see you on the couch again, or maybe one day I can come out and meet you when it's time for the books and stuff like that. I said that I wanted to go and be more engaged and get out in the community. So I look forward to that. So, again, that is the end for now. Again, my name is Sandra Williams, and I am the host of the I Shall Bloom. I can be reached at ishallbloom.com, and my YouTube page is I Shall Bloom Talk Show. And remember, I shall bloom, you shall bloom, we shall bloom and blossom. Bye now. Come around and just push in. Uh-uh. So, bye now. There you go. And one more time.